Good evening, everyone. Today is Tuesday, July 26th. It's now 6 p.m. We're here for a special session of the Hunt County Commissioners Court. This time I call the meeting to order, and I'm going to ask Commissioner Smith to lead us in prayer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to our flags. Please stand.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for the day, the blessings, the opportunities we have to be part of a great nation. We thank you for the ability to assemble, to discuss, to understand, and to make decisions. We ask that you have all ears open to hear, to understand, that we can all make decisions that are suited for the best interest of you in this great state of Texas and Hunt County. Thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you, everyone. We have Commissioner Money, Monroe, Smith, and Harrison present. I'm Judge Stovall presiding over the meeting tonight. At this time, we normally have public comments or testimony. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. Should conduct themselves in a civil manner. The Commissioners Court cannot take action on items not listed on the agenda in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act. Concerns will be addressed by county staff. They may be placed on a future agenda or addressed by some other course of response. If anybody wishes to speak now, they're welcome to. If they need to leave and go on, we got other things to do tonight. If you prefer to wait, you'll get another opportunity after the presentation to ask questions. So if anybody wishes to speak now or needs to give some testimony now, we got one that signed up, Ramsey Lindsay. Would you want to wait until later, or you want to speak? Okay. Online comment? Okay.
This is from Angie Shackelford. Any financially responsible fire department can manage the funds allocated by the Commissioners Court to cover expenses. The problem is that they cannot say no and do not value the court-provided funds. As a previous treasurer of Quinlan Volunteer Fire Department, I can attest. We went through a fiscal loss of $24,400 from April 2022 until December 2022, when we lost all funding, even county. Once the county and medical was restored, then we became the only department in Hunt County that was debt-free as of April 2023. I sent an email to Judge Stovall and all the other commissioners for their support during that time. After becoming debt-free, we could then say yes. This funding request is a direct result of the three departments successfully securing Quinlan's area for coverage. Why fund South Hunt County? They also have funds from the city as well. They should be out of the mix, just like Greenville is. These departments convinced certain commissioners to defund the Quinlan Volunteer Service to save $60,000 of already allocated funds. A properly managed department can pay all of the necessary bills to succeed. The departments requesting this should have their books examined. Angie Shackelford, Hunt County resident, former 20-year treasurer of the Quinlan Volunteer Fire Department.
Okay. Thank you. If no one else wishes to speak, we'll move on to, I'll close public testimony and move on to the agenda. We have no old business under new business. There's no consent calendar tonight. Action items number 1. Public hearing pursuant to Texas Health and Safety Code 775.016 on the petition for creation of Hunt County Emergency Service District Number 2, a proposed district under Article 3, 48-E of the Texas Constitution and Chapter 775 of the Texas Health and Safety Code, with boundaries as stated in the petition on file with the county clerk. Interested persons may appear in person or by attorney to support or oppose the creation or pertinent testimony. Daniel, you want to brief us on the way this is going to go tonight?
All right. In front of you, I know Mr. Biggers handed out earlier this packet. I haven't had a chance to go through here, but he sat down and showed me a couple of the numbers a few minutes ago that I think are very relevant to the decision making tonight. And you'll see when you look through the rest of that packet, some blanks that those numbers can fill in. The packet that I handed out has a kind of a short memo, attorney-client memo at the top that goes over what your options are tonight. There's 3 items on the agenda after the public hearing. Each of those 3 has a document in that packet. The first one after the public hearing is making findings, then approving or denying the petition, and then ordering the confirmation election. To the extent that there's information that you want before making those decisions that you don't have, either in the documents that I put together or the chief's packet that was handed out, you can also postpone action on these, but you have to postpone it to a specific date and time and location. Or if you don't have a specific date, time, and location, there's still time before the August 17th deadline to re-notice these meetings. That would require a 21-day posting at the courthouse and 21-day posting in the newspaper, publication in the newspaper 2 times, the same way that we did it ahead of this hearing. Some things are complete and don't need to be done over again, like those postings might. And one of those is in your packet, which is the voter count. It's a kind of a green page document. There were about just over 300 signatures handed in as part of this. As part of the review process, we had to look at those names, confirm, number 1, that those people were voters, and number 2, that they lived in and owned property in the district. And that sounds relatively simple, but it took an extreme amount of time. And what you got in front of you is the final product of that. And so about 2/3 of the signatures, 181, of the signatures are voters in the district. They own property in the district and they live in the district, the proposed district boundaries. The only catch with this, and that far exceeds the minimum of 100 voters or 100 petition signers. The only catch is that some of these names are likely people who live in the city of or the ETJ of the only city that hasn't granted the petition to be included, which is Hawk Cove. And so one thing that would need to happen, it would be to, if that is not going to be part of the ESD, the people who live in both the ESD and the city limits, their names would need to be struck from that list. That would almost certainly leave more than the necessary number of people, but it's not something that's been done to date. After the presentation is given in the public hearing, the 3 action items that are in front of you all have a document. And they're in order in your packet, or at least when I handed out the packet, they were in order. The first one is the petition for creation or the first item in your packet is the petition for creation itself. It includes the boundaries on the 3rd page. There's a big purple, orange, and yellow map. That would be the boundaries if that city was included. If not, there would be a kind of a bubble-shaped exclusion down near the bottom. That would be the final map. Now, the Commissioner's Court can't sit here and revise the map, but what you can do is take notice of the fact that that permission hasn't yet been granted, and automatically, by process of law, that city would be removed from the final map. Underneath that, there's 3 other documents. Number 1 is an order making findings. And we can go over, you'll notice as you look through here, there's several blanks for dates and amounts. After looking at this, the document that was handed out, I believe most of those will be filled in or fillable with the information that's in here. Some of them are dates of when cities approved those requests from the ESD. I know that 4 of the 5 did approve those, but those dates would need to be included in the final version of this. Underneath that is an order that grants the petition, and you'll see in all of these, it leaves open the possibility, should you want to continue this meeting for further discussion or further public hearing time for the public to speak. All of these can be amended. These are in Word version on my computer, and I can amend them as we go forward to change the dates. But there's an absolute drop dead date of August 17th where all of this would have to be approved in order to go on the November ballot. And then the last item is the order that calls the election. That one's relatively straightforward because it's mostly just pulled from state law. The only the only blanks on that are the dates in the names of the people who moved for approval and then seconded that. The real heavy work on filling in some of the blanks is mainly on that first document, the order making the findings. Not all of those things are required under the way state law is set up. They are pulled from other counties that have approved the creation of the ESDs. And these were included because they're things that could lead the Commissioners Court to say, yes, this is a financially appropriate thing to do for this area and at this time, or lead you to not make that decision. But I know that the financial portion of this is going to be an important part of the initial presentation. So I can go over any questions that you got about that generally, or we can start the public hearing with the presentation and then get input from the public.
Question for you first.
Yeah.
You got one?
No, go ahead.
And concerning Hawk Cove, so if we were to pass it tonight, would they be excluded, or they could still come back in? Would we have to meet again to include them, or could we approve it conditioned upon them getting their approvals in by a certain time? Or how long do they have to get it in?
Well, they have, there's a bunch of different timelines included, and the timelines run from the date that they first received the notice, and I don't have that particular piece of information. It was May 8th. And so by August 8th would be the 90 days. 60 days for cities.
Their deadline was July 6th.
Okay.
So they're done?
So yesterday. Yeah.
Okay.
So
So that's not a concern anymore then?
That wouldn't be a concern for these documents.
So
that's
we'll
right.
just have to exclude them out of because all the current maps and all currently included them, so we'd have to exclude them in a motion.
That's correct.
Yeah, okay.
So if
Well,
they,
and in the wording of the document.
Right,
Yeah.
so the document had to be revised.
That's right.
Yeah.
It is written with that assumption in there that they're
Okay.
not going to be in there, and you'll see when we go through the specific documents that there's references to that.
so by missing the July 6th date, if they convened a special session next week, the vote would not count.
I believe that is correct. After it hits 60 days, there's a petition that can be done by the people who live in that ETJ and the city limits, but I'm not aware of anything like that going around right now. Are you guys?
So that takes 90 days, and that puts us past August.
Okay.
What happens to Hot Cove as far as fire service? Since they're not going to be in ESD, will they still be protected by any department, or are they just on their own? Or
You
Yeah,
need
but
to come to the
come up
mic.
to the mic. Thanks.
Legally, what will happen is all the way the ESD, if passed to go to ballot and then this passed by the voters, would not be fully funded until end of January of 2028. So the county fire departments would still be running county services under county contract until that time when the ESD takes full funding effect. Hot Cove would have fire protection all the way through then. Hot Cove has the option of when that happens, they can come back in that time period from January 2027 when the board is seated till it takes fire. They can meet with the board and sign an individual contract with the board to provide them service at what is considered a market rate, which the ESD can provide them service even though they're not a part of it, but they have to give them a market rate about what they're charging their citizens within their being taxed.
And that market rate would consider the fact that other citizens are paying tax for it, and so they're not paying for Hot Cove services.
Yes, sir.
Hot Cove is paying for their services.
Yes, sir. So then it would transition to the city would decide if they want to fund their own fire department, if the county can want to provide them with a fire service, which is not constitutionally obligated to, or if the city would want to contract services with the ESD and pay out of their fund to then have the ESD service them.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
So, before we start, I want to make a statement that the court is not voting tonight that we are in support or not in support of. We'll be voting whether or not to put it on the ballot. So anything that we do tonight is not us okaying it in any way. We're just saying, yes, it meets all the standards, we'll put it on the ballot, or no, it doesn't, and we won't vote to put it on the ballot. So just make sure that everybody's clear of that. And Daniel Ray that was speaking earlier, he is our civil attorney for the county. So that's who he is. Has anybody got any other comments before we start? If not, Chief Biggers, if you want to make your presentation.
I'll try to talk because I'd like to want to talk to all of y'all as well. This is a public community conversation, so forgive me if my back's to you, but I'm speaking to all y'all as well as much as I can. So, and commissioners, thank y'all for the time, and I appreciate it. So, for all y'all that don't know me, good evening. My name is Ryan Biggers. I'm the fire chief for South Hunt County Fire Rescue. I'm joined by Chief David Rutherford, Tawakoni South Fire Department, and several volunteers throughout our fire department and our county tonight. I've been a volunteer in Hunt County for over 24 years now. 20 of those years I've been a professional firefighter EMT as my career, as well as a professional fire instructor. I've served 14 years as the fire chief for South Hunt County, and for the past decade I've served as the president of the Fire Association. Before I say anything, I do want to make clear and kind of piggyback on what Judge Stovall just said. Why I'm here is openly, I want to be completely upfront about what this is and what it isn't, what an ESD is and isn't. Everything I'm going to show you tonight is meant to do two things: inform and educate you on what an ESD is, isn't, and how it can benefit our southern Hunt County area. This is not, this presentation here is not the position of any city council. It's not the position of the commissioner's court. And there is no ESD board currently formed at this time. So I cannot speak on behalf of them and what their decisions will be. It doesn't exist. Y'all have to approve it to exist. If a district is ever formed, every decision about tax rates, budgets, contracts, and staffing gets made by that board of commissioners, which is appointed by these gentlemen here in front of you. In the open, under Texas law, and with your public input. All right? Every number I'm going to put up on this screen is backed by public data through the Hunt County Appraisal District, insurance statistics from Friends at Texas Farm Bureau, ISO, and other named sources. I'll show you where each one comes from. It's listed on the screen. So please hear this overall. This is a community conversation, not government action. Okay? And I'm just asking you, as fellow Hunt County citizens, to look at the facts with me. What this is about securing the future here in southern Hunt County. for the people served by Suffolk County Fire Rescue, Tawakoni, and Tawakoni South Fire Departments. 3 things drive everything I'm going to say tonight: protecting lives, closing the gaps in coverage, and building fire and rescue services that can actually survive the next 20 years into the future. Because to be straight honest with you, if we don't do something soon, the future of our fire rescue services in southern Hunt County and overall in Hunt County with our growth is becoming a worrisome issue. I will ask this Commissioner's Court, and if they do so, you as citizens to vote yes for this. But I'm not going to ask you to do it blind. Over my time here, I'm going to work to earn that vote. And if we have the opportunity, our time before the November ballot, we'll work to earn your vote. We're going to have town halls, educational publications, whether virtual so everybody can attend or in person. We're going to work and make sure everybody understands what an ESD is and the benefits it has. With numbers, real Texas examples, and by answering even questions that honestly, including from ones of people that don't support the CSD or what it stands for, but also live or do not live within its boundaries. So here we have the first slide about what we're going to be talking about. So what we're talking about geographically here, this is the proposed district. It combines the service areas of 3 fire departments: South Hunt County Fire Rescue, Tawakoni, and Tawakoni South Fire. All these areas are in a rapid growth of southern Hunt County. Here's the key point that we need to understand. Together, these 3 form one connected service area. Right now, they operate separately, and each are scrapping for their own funding. A unified ESD stitches that together. One governance structure, one funding stream, no more gaps at the seams where one district ends and the other one begins. So what is an ESD? Let me demystify it for you, because that name does sound bureaucratic, and it really isn't. An ESD is a local government unit created by Texas voters. You, all of you, create this to fund fire, rescue, and emergency services within its boundaries. It's been in the Texas Constitution since voters approved it in 1987, and 4 things define it. 1, it is created by the voters and by the people. It takes a petition, which Mr. Ray just talked about, a public hearing, is which we're at now, and then an election for you to make the final decision. Nobody imposes this on the people from the top down. It's a community decision. 2, it's governed locally. The 5-member board, appointed by our Commissioner's Court, open meetings, public budgeting, and legally required annual audits. 3, and this is crucial, the funding is dedicated. By law, ESD tax money can only go to fire and rescue service. It cannot be swept into a general fund or spent on roads or other infrastructure deals. It's capped by the Constitution and by the voter at 10 cents per $100 value and can go no higher. And 4, it's a flexible partner. An ESD can contract with cities, the county, and other districts for equipment, staff, and facilities if need be. So here's the road from where we are to a funded fire district in 5 steps. We had started with a petition drive. At least 100 qualified voters who own property within its boundaries and are going to receive services. Then it's filed with our county judge, and the commissioners set that public hearing, which is where we're at right now, where all of you get to speak and give your input. The commissioners determine if the district is necessary with a vote and allow it to go to ballot. Those voters within its district, then they decide on its formation and the tax rate. They decide on the cap of how high that they can be taxed. This is a tax increase. We're not hiding that. The ballot law requires that we literally put that in bold capital print on the ballot. This is a tax increase. A majority yes creates the district, and then that board is appointed by the Commissioner's Court under their standards, and then they get to work. Now, one warning. If this fails, The law requires waiting a full year before it can be put on the ballot again if it's ever brought forth. So that is why building a real understanding of what this is right now matters, because we really want to get this right. Now, what will it cost? All right, the question on everybody's mind. What is it? The proposed rate that we're putting forward is 10 cents on a $100 value. So let me translate that out into tax speak. That is 1/10 of 1% of your home's value per year. 1 penny to every $10 of your appraised value. In Quinlan, that's about $16 a month per an average resident. In West Tawakoni, it's about $13. Overall, based on CAD data, the average home throughout the entire district, property value is about $250,000. That's district-wide, being that average property owner will pay $250 a year if it is at 10 cents. That's $28.83 a month, less than a tank of gas. Across the entire ESD, if it was adopted as the entire map, that budgets out to about $2.6 million a year if a 10-cent budget is put forward for fire and rescue services. Now, some of you are thinking, don't already the fire departments get funded? Let me show you what our departments actually receive, because this is really a heart of an issue, but it's not the core and only piece. Hunt County provides about $66,000 a year per department, about a little over $5,500 a month, and the hospital district provides about $18,000 a year. So each department roughly gets about $84,000 per year from county and hospital. Some, like South Hunt County, receive city funding. Our city funding through the city of Quinlan is a couple $100s a month. The remainder of that is done on donation by the water bill. That is how we get funded through the city. Tawakoni receives some city funding as well. But the actual cost of operation of these fire departments, on average, is about $250,000 to $400,000 a year. That's the gap. This is the gap that these departments work tirelessly every year to fill and make sure it's met. What about grants? Grants are real, but they're one-time, competitive, and equipment only. Federal grants like the Assistance of Firefighters grant, where it's the only grant that is capable of supplying the fire departments with a new Class A pumper. There's currently no state grant that does that. Is highly competitive. When we put in a grant, we're putting it in against Dallas, Washington, D.C., L.A. County, all these other places. I was denied an engine several years ago and watched Washington, D.C. get a brand new one. And I'm like, how does that work? But it's the way it is. That's how the federal grant system is. And that's the only grant system that allows us enough funding to actually buy a new fire engine. But they're just overall for equipment. The average state grant the department receives is about $24,000 a year, equipment only, whether that's for bunker gear or training equipment or things of that nature. $24,000 gets us about 4 sets of bunker gear. What about fundraising? Barbecues, fish fries, boot drives. For a lot of us in the rural departments, that is our operating budget. Mailers, begging and stealing, borrowing. Every year, our fundraisers are getting harder. It's donor fatigue, volunteer burnout, spent fundraising when they should be training and staffing the station, and equipment costs have nearly doubled. A pumper that cost $350,000 in 2009 now is in the range of $800,000 to $1 million as of today, and it has continually increased every year on a rate of about 3 to 5%. So here's the bottom line. This is a quarter to a $400,000. The math has never worked. Even Texas legislator admitted last year in 2025 that there is a historic backlog and funding deficit and approved excess funding for the Texas Forest Service grant system. I fundraise every year. I have multiple fundraisers. I see about the same 250, 300 people at my fundraisers, some in this room. I serve a population of about 14,000. I appreciate every bit of support we get, whether it's just verbal or financial, a good pat on the back. But I can tell you that 13,700 people better thank God for those 300 that donate to our fire department every year. They keep us afloat. The truth is an ESD is an only mechanism that is allotted to us that closes that gap permanently. Now, our hard truth. I want to be blunt about equipment because safety issues right now and not someday. Our primary fire engines on average in southern Hunt County are about 18 years old. The industry standard that sets is asked for about replacement every 15 years. And when an odometer hits about 101,000 miles, equivalent with engine hours. But with the engine hours and overall odometer readings, the average mileage of our primary fire engines in southern Hunt County is 371,000 miles. We take engine hours, and that is each hour is about 33 miles, because these engines aren't just idling. When they come to a fire, they're running at a couple thousand RPM as if they're driving. So engine hours on a fire apparatus are counted towards miles based on standard. And the cost that it takes to service these larger apparatus. Each time one of these trucks goes into the shop, it's about $3,000 to $5,000 just for preventative maintenance. Then we run into repairs and issues. Tires are sitting at about $5,000 or $4,000, depending on how many tires and sizes you run on your apparatus. And our preventative maintenance is what we try to do the best we can twice a year, but breakdowns in between also add to that. And the threat has changed. A modern home today with synthetic materials and modern building material reaches flashover, which is fully involved, in a time of about 3 to 5 minutes. It used to be about 30 in the 60s and 70s. And meanwhile, during all this, our call volume increases on an average about 10% every year with the growth that we're seeing here in Hunt County. 3 things you need to know. The breathing apparatus, our SCBAs that we use to enter structure fires, rescue people, are out of certification. Most all of them. We have a few that are, but a majority that we run in all departments are out of certification. By federal law, our cylinders at our fire departments cannot even be filled. We can fill them ourselves, but if we took them to a dealer to be filled, they would refuse to fill them. They cannot be older than 15 years old by OSHA and NFPA standards, so we have to fill them ourselves. We cannot even have them filled. Our gear that the firefighters wear, a lot of it is out of date. There's great, we get blessed with some grants and donors that give us new gear, but it never matches the amount of volunteers we have. And it's hard for a lot of that gear that has to be fitted to a person, because fit is very important when you're moving inside a fire to be reused sometimes. Most of the gear that is on some of our firefighters exceeds 10 years old, which is the industry standard and says it's aged out after that. Our fire departments get gear from larger paid fire departments as they're throwing it away. That's what the truth of the matter is. You have fire departments in Hunt County getting Dallas's, Royce City's, Houston's throwaway gear that they will not put on their own. So it comes to the point that our firefighters are walking into burning buildings in unsafe, untested SCBAs and out-of-date gear by standards set by both the Texas Commission on Fire Protection and NFPA. The apparatus we ride passed the replacement cycle, and that new truck costs almost $1 million when it talks about our frontline larger units. This isn't a wish list that we're putting forward to you. This is gear that we're telling you has already crossed the fail line. Now our volunteer staffing crisis. This is not just for us in Southern Hunt County, this is a nationwide issue. The people. Because you can have the best truck in the world, the best gear in the world, and it does nothing sitting in the bay without anybody to drive it or anybody to wear it. Nationally, our volunteer firefighters are down 25% since 1984, the lowest number ever recorded. About half of the ones we have left consider quitting on a regular basis based by statistics. And more than half of rural firefighters, volunteers, are over 40. Departments are currently seeing a turnover rate here in Hunt County of about 30 to 40% a year because it is a hard work and hard strain on a home life and everything else to be a volunteer firefighter under the intense work pressure we meet. Every year, that's experience walking out the door. We can recruit new firefighters on a regular basis, but then we train them up. We train them up for them to come and leave us a year later. And so it's a constant cycle. I want to be clear here. What's hurting these firefighters is a lot of different things. We live in a world of dual home incomes. Our young people are now leaving the rural areas to work in urban environments and cities. Training standards have gone from 36 hours to now over hundreds of hours, along with certification standards. And schools that are required, or we try to require them to attend the best we can. And then family strains and two income households kill us on daytime availability, especially the volunteer response. Meaning that fire at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday has less people able to answer it on average than ever before. And with that, our call volume nationwide for volunteer fire departments has tripled in 35 years. And we've seen the triple exceeded here in Hunt County. I want to be clear about one thing. Our volunteers in this county are heroes. They give their blood, sweat, tears, mental, and physical health for this job. This is not a knock on them in any way, shape, or form. This is the only path forward, and ESD is the only path forward to supplement them, to allow them some breathing room, to allow us to have paid staff to fill the gaps, stipends that we can give these volunteer firefighters to make the strain of giving things for free a little less difficult. Make it sustainable. Increase training budgets so we can send more firefighters to Fire Academy, become a better pathway for firefighters, especially young firefighters, to go into a career in the fire service. And mold the next generation. Smith County ESD, for example, recruited 40 paid firefighters within their first year. And the volunteers within Smith County are alive and well and working right beside them. We see this in ESDs throughout the entire state of Texas, paid and volunteer working hand in hand. Volunteers are honored. They're the backbone. They're not replaced. But heroism alone cannot staff that fire engine at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. And all this is happening while Hunt County is booming. We're blessed to live in an amazing county that has seen exceptional growth. But with that growth comes strain. These gentlemen up here have seen it more than most anybody. They hear about it on a regular basis. Every budget year, they fight it with the people that understand. It takes a lot to understand, to take on this growth. We're up 48% since 2010 here in Hunt County, almost 19% since 2020 alone. Quinlan, 42 miles from Dallas, sits squarely in the DFW growth corridor, and it's not slowing down. More people means more structures, more calls, longer routes, and response times that degrade as the same crews cover more ground. Bexar County ESD had to open 2 emergency stations just to keep up with the growth within their area and keep up with the response times and call volume. But here's the beautiful thing about the ESD model. It scales automatically. As new homes get built and values rise, the revenue grows with it. No new election is needed. The district can plan and build stations ahead of subdivisions, not playing catch up and being years behind. Growth without a plan is how communities fall behind permanently, and in ESD is how we stay ahead in the public safety realm. Let me be precise in the major point we're trying to make when we talk about $2.6 million and why fire departments need that to operate. That's not to operate today. We're wanting to grow this fire service in Southern Hunt County for the future, expand it, strengthen it, and bring it on. The ESD specifically, and not some other fix, is the only pathway that we have to round-the-clock paid coverage. A fire chief in Walker County, when proposing his ESD, put it very well. Volunteers are dedicated, but that's not the same as being able to put someone to staff the station around the clock. Legally, an ESD revenue is only rule mechanism that can commit recurring salaries for fire rescue, because it is constitutionally obligated and dictated that it can only be used for those fire rescue services. Federal SAFER grants, which is our, SAFER is our grant system to the federal government that allows grant funding for staffing, requires that you show financial stability to even apply for it or be awarded, which an ESD does now, if passed, provides for that aspect and allows these volunteer fire departments to be able to apply for that grant. Because currently, they're not a financial stable enough for the grant based on just year-to-year fundraising. And the national standard for a crew being ready to respond is only achievable with our on-duty paid staff. There's also a gate you have to pass before you hire anyone paid. Once you start paying firemen, you fall under what's called the Texas Commission on Fire Protection Compliance Standards. Firefighters must be certified. There must be safety programs in place. All the gear must meet compliance. Less than 10 years old. SCBAs must be within date, hydrostatically tested. Annual medical physicals must be provided to all members and firefighters. And the list goes on. It costs money. It's expensive. Outside of salary, to maintain them is a cost. And it's exactly the kind of recurring cost only an ESD can fund. It works in practice. We see it in Smith County, Llano County, Community VFD in Harris County, with 306 firefighters, and 130 of those are volunteers, working right beside the paid staff. In fact, Community VFD grew their volunteer numbers after bringing in paid staff because the stress of volunteering was that little less, and their volunteer numbers grew exponentially, increasing their strength and staffing to supplement with their paid. Now let's talk about your insurance, because that's where the ESD can start paying you back and start mattering to you. Every community gets an ISO rating from 1 to 10. Class 1 being the best, the most superior, and Class 10 basically means you didn't meet the minimum criteria. Nearly every home insurer uses this score to assess your insurance premiums. It's calculated on 3 things. 50% of it is the fire department. Staffing, training, apparatus, age, and testing, response times. 40% is water supply. What hydrants are in your system and what the capability and pressure are. And if there is not hydrants, what does the fire department have to supplement that? It can do so with tanker shuttles. And there's a tanker shuttle grading system that allows these fire departments in non-hydrant areas to show that they can bring water to a fire at a set rate of 250 GPM per 3 hours, and they get the same scores if there's a hydrant sitting in front of that house. And 10% of that is emergency communications. Currently, in Hunt County, we don't get that 10%. Our Hunt County dispatch is done by AMR. It has to be a public service answering point or a PSAP to get the emergency communication grade. And because we do have Hunt County SO answering our 911 calls, but transferring to a non-PSAP entity dispatching us, we lose points there, which I'll show you here in a little bit how an ESD can assist with such things. But here's the Texas-specific kicker. In Texas, an improvement to your rating applies to your entire homeowner's premium. Not just the fire portion as it is overall in a lot of other states. That makes improving ISO much more valuable and vital, specifically in the state of Texas, than anywhere else. And homeowners in a Class 9 community pay 65% more in fire losses than they do in a Class 5 community on average. So where are we at now? Class 9, 10 for a lot of our areas within the ESD, because It's the worst that we have. They're sitting without 5 miles from a fire station. We have no means to build another fire station to bring them within 5 miles. We don't have paid staffing to lower these ratings. A lot of them within that 5 miles may have that lower rating of a 7 or 8 because some of these fire departments were 6 in some, but a vast majority of sitting outside of that is sitting at a 9, 10. So with that being the case, there's nowhere else to go but up because we're already at the rock bottom. Mhm. So, watch what happens if that rating as the ESD does its work. We started a Class 9 with funded gear and training. We target a Class 6 within our 2 to 3 year time period. That's a 15 to 20% insurance cut on average. Paid staff, new apparatus, gets us more to a Class 4, along with station relocations and builds. 25 to 30% long-term, a full combination department, full-time paid staffing, supplemented with some volunteer backup, gets us to that Class 2, 35 to 40% cut. And I've ran some real numbers from a friend in the insurance agency on actual Hunt County homes that Texas Farm Bureau provided within the proposed ESD. As we can see, just in some years, what we have based on home on FM 2947, taxable value being $390. On average, you'll pay $391 a year in the tax. Taking it from a Class 9 to a 6, they have a savings of $235 a year on their insurance, an additional $110 a year to Class 2 when they drop to Class 2. Total savings on their insurance about $345 a year, meaning they're paying for fire service. Total would be about $46 a year in the wash. FM 751, we see a similar thing. Larger home, $377 a year to the ESD tax. Within the first couple of years, we lowered that to a 6. They're saving at $186 a year, $114 more. As we meet that Class 2, $300 a year, $77 is what they would end up paying over in an ESD tax with the wash of insurance. And then we have FM 36. This home right here, $349, $220 a year in savings, $210 once you hit that 2, bringing it to where it would profit $81 a year with the ESD tax included. I brought this up to show y'all some examples. I'm not here to give you all fluff and pillow and it's all great. It's going to cost some people in a wash and it's going to save some people. That's all about your insurance shopping and who you go with. This is one insurance company to give us an example. And as we move forward, if we get on the ballot in our town halls, we'll have insurance experts be able to talk to y'all, both virtually and in person, about how savings affect your exact premiums with the ESDs and ISO. It's working across Texas. It's proven time and time again. This isn't theory. It's happening right now. Llano County, formed in 2023, took its response times from over 6 minutes to just under 4. And they absorbed a 50% jump in calls with 16 new part-time professionals since 2023 when they formed. Collin County last November passed with a 72.6% yes, an overwhelming mandate by that community. And they freed nearly $1 million a year that the county is now spending and reallocating towards roads and other infrastructure. William County's ESD included ambulance service. It went from 3 ambulances to 5. New EMS stations built, and ambulances that used to come from 30 minutes away now respond locally in the community. Burnett County, from a town hall to a funded taxing entity in just under 2 years, with response time projected to drop from 30 plus minutes to 5. As one board president put it over there, when you have a stroke or a heart attack, or you're down with a CPR, every minute counts. These are just 4 counties pulled recently that have passed. 4 success stories. More proof that the ESD model works. Now, I've been talking about honesty, so I want to get into that. So let me tell you where ESDs have had gone wrong. Because, like anything else, there has been wrongdoing. In Denton County, a fire chief embezzled $490,000. In Montgomery, a chief misused funds and a board rubber stamped him. In Harris County, a legal dispute froze millions in equipment during a transition when the ESD decided to transition its funding to its own department instead of a VFD because of issues with that department. But here's why I'm telling you this, instead of hiding it and trying to not take it head on. In every single case, the failure was an individual, corruption, or weak oversight, not the overall ESD structure. And in every single case, ESD law and the system put in place caught it. The Denton chief went to federal prison and had to pay restitution. A new board was seated within weeks as the old one was removed by the commissioners due to failure. The Montgomery County board resigned and was completely replaced within 4 days by that commissioner's court. And then they hired 24 full-time firefighters. In Harris County, they resolved their issues through court case, and the residents remained covered the whole time as ESD moved resources to make sure there was never a lapse or a lack of service. Out of 310 ESDs in Texas, documented operational failures are extremely rare. And the correction mechanisms are written into Texas law, and they worked exactly as they were designed to do. The structure did not enable the failure, it survived it. So let me address the rate directly, because why the maximum? Why 10 cents? It's a fair question. First, how is the rate set? Voters approve a ceiling. When y'all go to the ballot, and what y'all vote on is the ceiling, and you cannot be taxed over that. The Constitution of the state of Texas caps that ceiling at 10 cents, and it can go no higher. Then the appointed board sets an actual first-year rate. They come into power, are appointed, they analyze the fire departments, they do a study, they receive budgets, all under public view, public meeting, and public testimony, and then they set a rate, which can be lower than the 10 cents, because the 10 cents is a cap. The board may come in and say, we can do this at 7, we can do this at 6. And then, as time moves on, goals are met, growth happens, the board can reduce the rate as they need to. Bexar County cut their rate 16% since 2020, while also adding 2 fire stations. So why not set a lower ceiling? Because a lower ceiling doesn't save you money. It just delays services by years. At 10 cents, you get about $2.6 million, and you reach compliance and paid staffing within years 2 and 3. At 7 cents, you push that first paid firefighter out to 2 or 3 years. Out an additional 2 or 3 years. At 5 cents, paid staffing is 5+ years away. Every year of delay is more calls and more exhaustion on the same tired volunteers that give themselves every day. So hear me, I'm going to say this. Voting yes for 10 cents does not mean the board charges 10 cents from day one. It is the ceiling. 10 cents is the constitutional maximum, the firewall. The board sets a real working rate in public after reviewing budget, and the ceiling protects you, the voter. It doesn't obligate you. Now we talk about that $2.6 million. Let's break down where it goes in a draft 4-station first-year budget. Disclaimer here, once again, I do not speak for a board that does not yet exist. This is a draft budget about what you can see or what goals are of these fire departments for what could be proposed to this ESD board. $800,000 a year is currently what we operate off on at the stations. There's 4 stations within Southern Hunt County. South Hunt County Fire Rescue operates 2, Tawakoni and Tawakoni South operate 1 each. This covers fuel, apparatus maintenance, utilities, insurance, debt service, safety inspections, station supplies, utilities, all that stuff. Then $675,000 is what we look for to start stipending the volunteers immediately. Keep that retention, keep them in-house, keep that experience, and ease the burden of volunteering a little bit. Training hours, workman's comp, overall retention of our volunteer force until the ESD keeps working through its phases. The personnel stipends are budgeted on the idea of 3 personnel at every station working 12-hour shifts. With a fire officer, about $75 a shift, and a firefighter about $50. You do that about 10, an average volunteer could probably do about $5,000 a year. So volunteering from the fire department isn't going to make them a job, but it's going to allow them to buy Christmas for their kids. It's going to make up for the overtime they may miss because they are trying to staff the fire station, or the extra job they didn't pick up because they're dedicated to their community. It's going to allow them to help pay their property taxes or help with a little bit of debt. Then we have $625,000 for administration and contingency. This is required by Texas state law. The ESD must fund an annual independent audit every single year, visible for the public. They must have legal counsel, there's tax collection fees, insurance, and working to build a contingency fund. The goal of most ESDs throughout is to have a year's annual budget in contingency of their operational capabilities. And then capital purchases, $500,000 on that first year. This is where we can replace and get our SCBAs and PPE and turnout gear up to par, updated thermal imaging cameras, extrication equipment, radios, which the county so has graciously provided for us. But I promise you, firemen will break them if they can break anything. And starting our work towards getting these departments up to par. That's the whole $2.6 million, fully accounted for. And it's a multiplier. An ESD is an organizational background that allows you to compete more readily for federal grants that can pay upwards of $3 million, helping with staffing, equipment replacement. It can add and help out with additional state funds, not only the Texas Forest Service, but the ESD, being a government entity, has the ability to go after other state grants that are only available to government entities such as municipalities, counties, and ESDs. Without this, we're not even in the running for some of this funding. So what does it actually look like year by year? 2026 and 2027, this is our foundation. We collected the signatures. We're having this hearing. If passed, you, the people, vote. The board is then appointed by our commissioners, and they execute a full and entire audit of all the fire departments. By 28, the first year of funding is taking place. The taxes are fully collected. The number one priority is replacing breathing apparatus, PPE, and emergency life-saving equipment right off the bat, along with trying to retain our volunteer workforce. 2029, we're looking at a capital build. We can work to finance a new first replacement pumper, upgrade stations and capabilities, launch formal training, and execute an ISO study so we know where and when and how we need to increase or decrease that ISO rating. 2030, we're looking at our first paid staff, hoping to hire 3 or 4 professionals to supplement our volunteer staff and push that ISO rating from a 910 to a 6. 2031, and 32, we're looking towards building towards our 24/7 coverage, targeting that ISO class 4 and 5. And the board then evaluates a rate reduction comparable to the growth it's seen within the community. The last point matters. The tax base grows and goals are met. The board then has the authority to lower that tax rate, returning the value straight to you. Additionally, ESDs can have an election once formed to get a portion of sales tax. In unincorporated areas of the county, your sales tax, though you're charged at 8.25%, is only collected at 6.25. In municipalities, the rest of that's taken up to the full 8.25. That's constitutionally capped by the state of Texas. So in areas where it's not expanded, the ESD can have an election voted on by the citizens and giving them permission to go after the difference between 6.25 and 8.25, that additional 2% sales tax. So whenever somebody goes and pumps gas, buys a candy bar, they can get that sales tax. And then in turn, use that election to lower property tax for the citizens living, sales tax allowing our visitors to help pay for that ESD. The multiplier effect. And here's something that helps people who don't even live within our ESD proposed district. Once the ESD is self-funded, it absorbs the fire cost the county pays now, over $200,000 a year for the three departments. The hospital gets back its $54,000. Those dollars just don't disappear. They get redeployed or given back to you in lesser tax raises and tax rates. For example, once again, Collin County came in and reinvested almost $1 million into infrastructure, improving their roads all around the county. Other counties shifted it to sheriff's patrols. Merriam County reinvested it in ambulances. The hospital district's able to take that back and put it into rural health and the EMS system, which it covers with its tax, instead of working to subsidize fire departments. And economists all agree the estimated Texas ESDs generate hundreds of millions of dollars in annual economic activity by simply operating more efficiently. When an ESD carries a load, everybody around it wins, not just the people inside its boundary. The ESD works as a public safety partner. It's not just an island in the middle of the county. It's a connector across every level of government. Under interlocal cooperation acts, the ESD can sign binding agreements with counties, cities, hospital districts, schools, the sheriff's office, 911 dispatch. It replaces the ad hoc county subsidies with a dedicated funding stream. It can co-locate stations with EMS and the hospital district, cutting costs for both. It can formalize mutual aid with the sheriff's department on large-scale incidences and major incidences, and cost share incident command units and things of that nature. It can run joint drills with our independent school districts and help fund those. It can help fund the next generation of a 911 dispatch center in this county, which, remember, is 10% of this ISO score we're talking about. There's roughly 310 ESDs across Texas that do this every day. It's not experimental. It's how emergency services are coordinated throughout the state. Now, I've made my case for this ESD, I believe, for the best I can. But I'd be doing you a disservice if I stopped there. So you'll just give me a little more time. Because there's some real objections that have been seen throughout the community. And some of them come from people who are genuinely opposed. I've collected a lot of the toughest ones that I believe I've seen, word for word. I'm going to answer every single one that I put up. And if I can't answer the objections honestly, then I don't think we deserve your vote. So let's get into it. Objection one, biggest one. This is a tax increase. Yes, it is. There's no way around that. It's a tax increase. We're all tired. We're all tax fatigued. I'm not going to dance around that. The Texas law actually requires the ballot to say those words. This is a tax increase. There's no hiding behind it, and there's no lying about it or trying to fluff it. It's a new property tax. So here's the honest question every voter needs to answer. Is the safety of your family and your neighbors worth less than $7 to $21 a month? Think about it. Every tax you pay at some point was a new tax. The county, the school, the hospital. Someone had to vote for each one of these. And now each one protects something or serves something you all care about. This one protects your home, your family, and the people within that home. For a $250,000 home, that's about 69 cents a day, less than your Netflix subscription. For fire protection, 365 days a year. Objection two, what happens to our volunteer departments? They stay. They get stronger, and their service becomes protected. What stays? Their name, their identity, their service area, their culture of neighbor helping neighbor. The volunteers remain the backbone. But what improves? the gear they wear, the safety requirements and standards they meet, the apparatus and the maintenance schedule that they get to incur. Their training budget increases, and we are able to provide many of them with a career pathway outside of the volunteer world. And the paid staff is put in place to cover the low staffing gaps that are already existing. And here's the guarantee. The interlocal agreements that can be entered by the county and all cities and entities that within that ESD, binding them by contract to lock in response times, staffing levels, and coverage zones. Smith County added 40 professional firefighters along with the volunteers working right beside them. Houston Area Department volunteers grew when their paid staffing was put in place. As one lieutenant said there, volunteers are paid staff trained together, and the culture is extremely strong. The ESD is not here to replace our volunteers. It's here to give them the fighting chance they deserve. Objection 3, why not just create a county fire department? Because it costs more, not less, and it competes with everything else for the same dollar in the county budget. A county fire department comes out of the county general fund, which means it raises the tax rate for everyone in the county, including those that live in Greenville and Commerce who are already receiving professional paid fire service. And we want to talk about fair. Is that very fair for our government to do so? They'd be paying again for a service that they will not receive. Additionally, if a county came into place, it would have to phase in. And as that does in the busier areas, the community and the county as a whole are paying tax dollars. People in Celeste are paying for the paid station that ends up in Quinlan or Caddo. So everyone shares that cost, which is not overall fair. And ESD keeps it to its area and its people. And the county money is not protected. It fights roads, law enforcement, courts, health, every single budget cycle. And it can be cut at any time. ESD revenue is constitutionally locked to fire rescue services and cannot be rated for any other option. Now, it's entirely plausible the county could aggressively increase taxes to pay for better fire services, but doing so would wreck the county's ability to keep up appropriate funding levels for the essential services that they need to continue to provide, for something that they're not constitutionally obligated to do. Our county provides us with funding now, and they're not required to. It's a blessing that these gentlemen in front of us do what they do, but they don't have to do it. There's nothing in the state that tells them they have to provide us with fire service. They have to provide us with sheriff's office, they have to provide us with roads, but they do not have to provide us with fire service. Additionally, though the county is limited on how much it can increase your taxes every year, it's not capped on the overall tax rate that it imposes. So theoretically, year after year, it can max out your tax rate until it can get all the funding it needs. ESDs are constitutionally capped, 10 cents. That's it. They need to make it work with what they got. 10 cents on 100. A tenth, 1/10 of your appraised value. So if you want to ensure a tax cap for your fire service, ESD is your answer. ESDs also put in an additional layer of oversight. They are dedicated solely to overseeing the ESD and in turn being overseen by the Commissioner's Court, who can remove those board members at any point in time for cause, or for derelict of duty, or failure to act. Without the ESD, you don't have that constitutionally dedicated board to oversee fire service in their area. And in turn, we rely on our Commissioner's Court to provide that oversight along with everything else that they have to provide oversight for. The entire rest of our county government. A real example currently, the city of Hutto is looking at a city fire department instead of continuing with their ESD. Their own finance director admitted it required a tax increase on top of raising sales tax diversions. Overall, the ESD costs less than for fire service. It's dedicated, it's geographically fair, it scales with growth, and 300 ESDs in Texas prove it works in communities exactly like ours. Who controls the money? You, the people, y'all do. Y'all control the money. One, you have a 5-member board appointed by this Commissioners Court, meeting at least monthly. 5 independent voices, not one person with unchecked power. 2, you have total transparency by law. Every meeting falls under the Texas Open Meetings Act, posted in advance, open, minutes recorded. Every financial record is public, and any resident can request a document at any time. 3, they must meet an annual independent audit every year, filed by the county. And this one actually has teeth, because if they miss that deadline, the board president and treasurer, by law, are automatically removed from office. And the spending is constitutionally restricted. It can only go to fire rescue services. Compare that to the county general funds, which can be shuffled between departments all the time. ESD money has exactly one job: to fund the fire rescue services and improve it within its district. Bexar County, once again, worked and cut theirs 16%. And it requires a SOAR account to every expense over $2,000. That's accountability and real enforcement in action by an ESD. Now let's talk about the option nobody wants to put on a yard sign. Do nothing. Without an ESDs, departments have areas that will stay in the 910 rating permanently. There's no pathway to getting that better equipment on the larger scale that we need. We're able to get brush trucks and smaller trucks that run these EMS calls. We're able to get donors cover those and some grants. But when you talk about these larger pieces of apparatus that are in $1 million, or a ladder truck, as our community grows with high-rises, apartments, hotels, at $2 million, we have no real pathway to do that at this time. And there's no pathway that we can see at all to paid staffing in the near or distant future. Every year costs more. Class 910 homeowners pay 65% more in fire losses. A modern fire home hits that flashover and fully involved rate in 3 to 5 minutes. Response time matters. And a rural response oversight, minutes often mean total loss of property or life. Those pumpers are up at 90% since 2009. Every year we wait, they get more expensive. And the window is closing. Collin, Burnett, Milliam, Llano, they've already formed their districts. As they improve their ratings, our insurance disadvantage here in Hunt County grows. And if this fails, we will have to wait a full year to try again if we even do. So let's put it plainly. A fire truck can't reach you in time, that's not a volunteer problem. It's your family's emergency. And that is what is on the ballot. Now, direct questions we've seen and honest and specific answers. Let's talk about that. Do volunteer departments stay independent nonprofits? Yes. The ESD funds and contracts with the departments, and they get to keep their 501c3 and identity. We see that all over the state of Texas currently. Who owns the existing stations and trucks? They stay with the departments that own them. The ESD doesn't seize or take over anything. Terms are spelled out in the agreements before anything is signed. Anything an ESD purchases is purchased with taxpayer dollars, technically belongs to ESD. All existing equipment stay in the name of the departments, and the stations stay in the name of the departments. Was the actual rate? The ballot sets the ceiling. The board sets the rate. It can be lower after formation, depending on what the board does with their audit and evaluation. How are the commissioners chosen? They're appointed by these gentlemen up here. I can't tell you how they will choose them, but that is up to them, and they appoint them on what they believe is the criteria to meet. And they will serve in staggered terms. Can residents weigh in on big purchases? Yes. That's legally required by the state of Texas. Every meeting is public and open to public comment. If a contract ends, what happens? Members can join a new provider, Owned equipment stays with the owner. In Medina County, the new provider staffed the same station of the fire department 24/7 with zero coverage gap. What improvements do we think in 5 years? We laid out that 5-year roadmap. Year 1, certified breathing apparatus and updated PPE. Years 2 and 3 are ISO improvements, worth 15 to 20%. Years 4, paid staffing and response times. Now I want to take a specific critics seriously by their aim of their argument in their own words. One resident wrote that the current funding system is fair. The real issue is departments mismanaging their funds. There are a lot of grants, and there are too many unknowns to support this. So let me take this out individually. Here we go. Oh, sorry. Went back one. There we go. I agree our system is fair to all the fire departments. But fair and sufficient are two very different things. $84,000 against a need of about $250,000 to $400,000 per department leaves a 6-figure gap that no barbecue or fish fry can fill. A fair system that is structurally insufficient is still insufficient. Departments aren't managing their funds well. I don't agree with this. I see it every day that these departments do amazing things. But if that's your argument, then the ESD is your solution, not your threat. It brings mandatory independent audits with automatic removal for noncompliance. There's stronger oversight than any current nonprofit has today. There are a lot of grants, correct. And an ESD makes you more competitive and more capable of applying for those grants. Like we talked about, FEMA grants require, especially the SAFER one, requires structural organizational stability and financial stability. The ESD provides that backbone for grants such as SAFER. Too many unknowns. Every one of them is answerable. We're going to have town halls. We're going to have open forums. We're looking to make sure the public is educated and we're getting out there to them, both online and in person. So come to a meeting. Bring your questions. Bring a list. We'll walk through it with you. Another resident made a point that we can all agree with. They said no one should expect our firefighters to host fish fries to fund operations. And they worry about the districts left out: Merritt, Celeste, Wool City, Campbell, Lone Oak, Union Valley. We agree fundraising can be very undignified. No firefighter should have to shake a boot in 100-degree heat at a dangerous intersection to buy tires for the truck that they climb on to go save lives. Fish fries should be for new TVs, not our essential life-saving equipment. On that, we are aligned. Why not have the county fund them? We wish they could. But county money is zero-sum pool with no protection. ESD money cannot be rated. We saw this last county budget, the strife and the angst that was brought by the public. The county working to balance the tax rate to allow to provide better service and give a livable and competitive wage to the people they employ. Imagine if every year they had to raise tax money to be able to provide you with fire service. And on the other communities, Merritt, Celeste, and the rest, this is real. It's a fair concern. And I won't pretend Southern Hunt County ESD is going to fix those problems. We can't legally tax those people outside of the boundary of the ESD. But each community must petition separately. But what this can do is show proof of concept if it delivers. It's a model every other community can replicate. Bexar County has 12 ESDs. Harris has 30 plus. It scales as the future grows. And they said they shouldn't have to form a new tax entity to fund basic operations. You're right, they shouldn't. But they do. Because no other mechanism protects the funding. If a better way exists, let's look at it. Show us. Of a West Walkeny concerned resident. West Walkeny resident asked the right questions before joining another taxing district. Do you get faster response time, more paid staff, better equipment, a written plan, local control, a seat at the table? So let me each with the answer of yes and how. Faster response, yes. It can be written into the contract of an interlocal agreement. Llano went from 6+ minutes to under 4. More paid staff, yes. We already look at getting $675,000 to stipend and keep volunteers staffing the stations for budget personnel with a plan to add full 24/7 service. Smith County added 40+ in year 1. Better equipment. That's guaranteed in the capital budget. Breathing apparatus, gear in year 1, a new pumper in year 3. Written service plan. That interlocal agreement that your city can enter into is that written plan, negotiated before a dollar is spent. Local control, open meetings, public records, annual audit, constitutionally restricted spending. A seat at the table, explicitly. West Tawakoni's council negotiates the terms with the ESD, not the other way around. There will be a year where this ESD is getting formed, getting its feet wet, working with the cities it's going to serve before it goes into full funding. And that is the time where those interlocal agreements can go into place to make sure those cities get what they need. And their sharpest question, would you support a tax without a written guarantee? Well, no, but you shouldn't. And that interlocal agreement that is allowed by law is that guarantee. So the right ask here isn't guarantee us before we vote. It's give us a seat at the table at the time. And right now, as fire departments, we're extending that invitation for all those cities to have a seat at the table. Another citizen raised a sharp question about taxes, salaries, and 10%. So let's clear up each one. New taxes for everyone. No. Only residents inside the boundary who receive the service. Remaining Hunt County residents don't pay anything, but they can benefit by joint ventures. New government salaries for the board. The board members receive no salary. They're paid volunteers like ISDs and and hospital trustees. They have a set allotment of like $1,400. I can't remember the number off the top of my head. That's to cover travel costs and supplies, but they are entirely volunteer. 5 people meeting monthly in public, no new bureaucracy. Why count the county just funded? We've answered this. Because county money competes. It isn't protected. ESD money cannot be redirected. It's the protection of the ESD money that's the entire point. And do we get our county taxes back? Well, that's not for us to answer. That's for the commissioners. But, overall, probably not directly. The county can take those free subsidies and reinvest them into critical infrastructure that, as much as people are always complaining about in roads, and I'm listening to these commissioners on a regular basis. I would hate to be their cell phone about every pothole and everything else. So, God bless y'all for that. So, and the big one, why the maximum 10%? So 3 verifications on that. First, it's not 10%. It's 10 cents on 100, which is 1/10 of 1%. Or for a $250,000 home, $250 a year annually. The smallest tax you will ever pay on your tax bill. Second, the ceiling and the actual rate are very different things. You vote on the cap when you go to that ballot box. The board will then set the actual rate that cannot exceed what you voted on in a public, transparent hearing. Third, the board and the budget can't exist before the vote. So because the board doesn't exist until you create it, formation creates the accountability and structure. It can't come first. We don't have a board that we can speak for. The ceiling is a firewall, not a mandate. Tax fatigue is real, and I fully respect that, everybody. But this tax comes with more required accountability than any arrangement we currently have today for these fire departments. One post argued where the independent study, the return of investment analysis, the benchmarks. Voters are being asked for a blank check, and a no is a vote for accountability. I want to answer that head on because it's a more serious sounding question. The data exists from comparable Texas ESDs all over the state, Llano, Smith County, Locally, we are surrounded by ESDs. Van Zant, Kaufman, Rains. We see this in real life just across the county line. Departments that aid us and help save us with new equipment, better gear, and funded personnel. In fact, we see it right now sitting just across the county line in Van Zant County. There's an area there that opted out of the ESD called Rolling Oaks, where Wills Point formed an ESD. Rolling Oaks' fire department doesn't show up to calls 90% of the time. That gentleman right there and his department have to run to Van Zant County because they're the next closest fire department to that community, while Wills Point is ESD funded, has paid personnel, and Rolling Oaks chose the other route and has since suffered that consequence. Our public 5-year roadmap sets benchmarks. ISO 9 to 6 by year 3, response times lowered. We can see the exact replica of the successes where William County added ambulances from 3 to 5. The ESD is proven. Our rate of return, a $250,000 home pays $250 a year in tax. Depending on insurance and premiums and your quotes, we can see that premium raised to give them a profit in their insurance costs. A class 6 lowers that net positive $125 to $250 a year. On overspending, independent audits required by law with automatic removal if they don't meet them, open meetings, public records, constitutionally restricted spending, and a voter set ceiling. That's the 5 hard controls of the ESD. So what is really the blank check? The ESD, capped, audited, legally restricted, publicly transparent, budget process, financials, or the current setup, $84,000 to nonprofits with no required audit, no service standards, and no open public budget. Though they do their best to be transparent, there's no mandate for that. And understand that a no vote actually preserves uncertified breathing apparatus, out-of-date PPE, 18-year-old fire engines, and no way for us to get to that paid staffing that is needed because our call volume will far exceed that many paid fire departments are running currently around our area. Accountability requires something to hold accountable. The ESD creates that. The current status quo does not. ESDs work in bigger cities. Last objection that I have. I'll leave the floor. Someone said, based on a conversation they had, that ESDs work better in bigger and wealthier cities than small ones. I appreciate that honesty. They said outright it was based on personal conversations, but here's the thing. Anecdote and documented evidence aren't the same thing. No county was named, no ESDs identified, no specific outcomes cited. I generally welcome those details and name them because we have formed a network of ESDs and ESD commissioners and fire chiefs that we look to bring to y'all to help answer additional questions and stuff in our future town halls and things so you can hear from other chiefs and ESD commissioners and things around the state. And do your own research. I completely agree. Do it. Do your research. Be educated voters. Be educated voters on everything you vote for. Our country has lost that. But when you do, apply that same standard to every claim, including this one. Every statistic I've shown you tonight is sourced by public record, named officials, and state statutes put in place. But the evidence actually points the opposite direction. ESDs were always designed and put place to work for rural, lower-income communities, not bigger ones. Llano County, smaller and lower income than us, cut response time. Milliam County, smaller, lower income than us, went from 3 to 5 ambulances. They weren't wealthy metro cities. They're communities just like ours, and their model, an ESD model, delivered. So let me bring all this home. This comes down to 3 things. Professional service, trained, equipped responders available every hour of every day, not depending on who is available or sees the pager that morning. Sustainable funding, a stable basis that replaces the annual scramble that these volunteer fire departments do every year, so we can plan for 5 years in the future instead of fighting to survive the next year. And local accountability, open meetings, public budget, annual audits, and a 5-member board of your neighbors that you can walk right up to and ask a question. A stronger, safer future for all of Southern Hunt County starts with your voice at the ballot box, everybody. I've given you numbers. I've done my best to answer those hard questions, even the ones from people who will not agree with us. Now I'm asking you, Hunt County citizen to Hunt County citizen, when it comes to the ballot box, I ask you to vote yes. Commissioners, I ask you to let this be heard by the citizens. For the firefighters that answer those calls at 2 a.m., for your home, for the people inside it. That's what is on the line. Thank y'all very much. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer.
Thank you, Chief. Commissioners, y'all want to take a break or? Yeah. Let's take like a 5-10 minute break and we'll come back and have questions. It's 7:31. We're going to take a 5 to 10 minute recess. Give the Is everybody back? Yep. Everybody in out there, Sheriff? Okay. All right, it's 7:39, we're back in session. At this time, we're gonna have public testimony. Ramsey Lindsay, you wanna come speak?
I'm Ramsey Lindsay. I'm from the West Waukene City Council Place 2. And I got to say, that's an amazing presentation. You wrecked my list of questions. My concern is when I go home, I'm going to be asked how do we make this leap of faith between here and having a board that can give us budgets and we can see what West Waukene is putting in versus what they get. Is it a good deal for West Waukene? And what kind of protections do we have down the road with this board so we don't wind up with something similar to our hospital situation? And that's really, I love the things that you put forward, absolutely. But I know I'm going to be asked those questions, and so if we can work on that, I can get behind this. That's it.
Well, it's gonna be up to this court to find some good people and get some good people willing to serve. That's gonna be a critical issue. Are good people gonna be willing to step up, that have experience and all, that can do the job?
Right.
Bill that says that someone like you, Mr. Ramsey, just because you sit on the West Waukene City Council doesn't mean you can't sit on the ESD.
Yeah.
The gentleman make that decision. And that board, the West Waukene secure its future and regulations with your local agreement with that board in the formation that first year to make sure standards are met and securities are met for the city.
As Chief Biggers pointed out, it's getting hard to get volunteers to work at the fire department, but it'll be hard to get volunteers to work anywhere right now.
Two of my best friends in the world.
Yeah, we just need people that get more involved in our communities. And we need more people to get out to vote so they get what, the public wants.
Right.
We got too much apathy. Thanks, sir. Anybody else wish to speak? Come forward and state your name and address so we got it for the record, please.
James Cowan, live at 3717 County Road, 2617 in Cattle Mills. I was just gonna make a quick point to the Hawk Cove situation. At any point after an ESD is created, if you gentlemen approve it to go on the ballot and it does get approved, an area can petition, an area can petition to join the ESD at a later date. Any area, not just one that was considered in the beginning. At any point in time after the ESD is created, they can petition to join the ESD at a later time.
So if just a local group of a neighborhood wanted to come in,
Yes.
they can, or it has to be an
Yes.
entity that comes in?
No, I believe it's,
It can be a form of properties, it can be a form of properties or whatever that ESD board can accept that petition.
Okay.
And, it can be an entire city. It has to be a citizen-ran petition or citizen-driven petition. But a lot of cities, this just happened in Parker County ESD just this last year. City of Reno, I believe it was, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, realized they were missing out on the growth and the positivity the ESD was providing in their own fire department. They weren't able to keep up the funding. The city helped sponsor a petition of citizens that went forward and they voted and joined the Parker County ESD board.
So like a subdivision could come and band together and ask to come in, or a county road of people could come and, okay. Doesn't have to be an entity.
correct, it's not,
Okay.
once it's created, it's not permanent in that fashion. And if I'm not mistaken, areas can petition to get out of the ESD as well.
Yes, they can.
Yeah, it's not set in stone for the rest of time. It can move around.
That's good information. Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak? Ask a question.
John Curry, I live at 2715 Waters Edge in Quinlan. I'm a retired Garland firefighter of 26 years, and I'm a current volunteer in Tawakoni South. Fire doubles in size every minute. CPR, if CPR is not given within the 6 minutes, you're probably going to die. People at stations with equipment to get you there, to do CPR, to stop that fire from advancing. Are we going to save every single structure, even at paid fire departments that have stations 5 miles apart? No. We might save your grandma's picture. We might save that family Bible. I don't know how many people I've had say, hey, can you go save my kid? Well, it was their dog. It takes multiple firefighters on scene within minutes to jump through a window and save somebody. One breath of 400-degree superheated air sears your lungs and you're dead. It does not take very long to get to that flashover stage, which I can't remember. It's been a long time, 1,500, 1,800 degrees. When he says flashover, that means from floor to ceiling, the smoke, everything's on fire. The smoke is on fire. It takes professional people to fight fires. We can't be throwing 19-year-old kids and expect them to perform like people that have been doing this for 10, 15, 20 years. It takes experience. You can't learn this business in a classroom. We have to start building now, getting people in these fire stations and gaining this experience for the future. What does Hunt County look like in 20 years? Is it 300,000 people? What does Quinlan look like? The corridor of growth out of Dallas. What does I-30, Caddo Mills? I mean, this whole county is going to grow. We have to build that now to set our future and get these people in there. Yep, that's about all I got.
Thank you, sir.
I'm very passionate if anybody else wants to talk.
I didn't notice. Anybody else? Got a question, comment? Being none, we'll close the public testimony. Commissioners? Comments, questions?
I got a few questions.
Okay, fire away.
How does the ambulance service look? Will that be something you provide?
No, sir, it's currently funded with your hospital tax here in Hunt County.
Okay.
What the ESD would fund is what's first response, EMS, so which is what the hospital pays the volunteer fire departments for. So ESDs fund EMS in the structure of advanced life support equipment, certifications, CPR devices, life packs, advancement in that for first response. Your ambulance is provided by Hunt County EMS and through the hospital district's contract through AMR.
So you're just providing the pre-service before the
Yes,
ambulance
sir.
gets
Yeah.
there?
ESDs can, as they grow, have an option to work with the hospital, and if they deem they may need to contribute funds based on what their citizens require, they can partner with the hospital, maybe expand that service in their ESD. But currently, we have a hospital tax in Hunt County that funds our EMS, and that's a part of. Don't quote me on this. I believe that's constitutionally part of the hospital taxes. EMS being.
Yeah, the hospital pays for all the ambulance care. That's why they're dispatched separately, because they contract with AMR. AMR has its own dispatch.
Yes,
Fire and ambulance need to go together, so that's why it's currently
Yeah,
that way. It wouldn't be good to separate it out.
Yeah,
So
the ambulance
if it ever changed with the hospital wants control of it, because their doctors are overseeing that ambulance and the paramedics in that ambulance. The doctors at our hospital are dealing with it, so they want to. They're controlling all that for their liability. I don't know. I'm not an expert, but I think it's their liability.
Yeah, and as long as they tax the citizens, they kind of
Yeah,
have to provide
and
it.
so if that changes over time, then that could change, but that's probably going to stay that way until the hospital changes directions or
But
something.
no, this ESD would be fire rescue and first response EMS. The ambulance is handled by your hospital district tax.
Hey, Chief, I do have a question kind of bouncing off that. First, good presentation. Good
Yes,
job
sir.
on that. So would y'all also try to work towards, ALS, or just, is that
100%.
something that you could look at as well?
That would be one of the number one goals is providing advanced life support. With rural communities, the quicker we can give early ALS intervention, the key components especially being CPR and AED intervention, which is BLS, but the quicker we can get ALS intervention, and what I mean by ALS intervention is true ALS, not ALS by the title. ALS by we have a paramedic on every single call. We can currently call ourselves an ALS department if we have a paramedic on our department. But the goal for true ALS service is a paramedic on every call and providing that advanced life support every time. Yes, sir, that would be one of the ultimate goals of those, especially with those paid individuals.
Where's your money?
How how will this affect citizens over 65, as most of their taxes are already capped? So how would that
All
affect
tax
them?
caps and all exemptions that apply to the county taxing is also applied to ESD taxing.
Okay. How bonds, if you decided you needed a bond, do they apply to this or do they not? I know they do hospitals, schools.
The ASD doesn't have non-voter approved bonding authorities, so they can't take, they have to, if they want to pursue a larger debt in a bond aspect, that they have to have a vote.
It would require voter approval.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I'm assuming the taxes include commercial and industrial businesses also?
Yes, sir, that data was given to me by the Hunt County Tax Office, Hunt County CAD.
Okay.
The appraisal district, sorry, not Mr. Roniger's office, the Hunt County Appraisal District's office.
I had about 9 more, but you've already answered them, so.
Yes, sir. That was my goal, hopefully.
You did a very good job
Thank
with
you,
the
Don.
presentation. Thank you.
David, you got,
Same thing. You pretty much answered all the questions. I had, be honest, I had a lot for you because I've had a lot of citizens asking me things that I'm responsible to, and you pretty much hit them, and you got them in a book right here where I can take them and show the people, handwritten.
If I want to make something clear to the citizens overall, guys, we're not hiding this from y'all. There's a steps of this ESD that has to be taken, and right now we're in what's called the government approval stage. We have to get the approval from the city governments and the county governments before we get the citizen approval and go to the ballot box. So once we get the clear yes or no from the county government, if they allow us to move to ballot, then we start our public campaign and getting out to educate the public in town halls and things of that nature and answer questions directly. Because right now, this is by law, we're following the steps to move forward with county approval, and then we start our next phase of our public education and public approval.
Okay.
I have one more.
so David, you got one more?
I changed my mind.
Oh, okay. This is the only time tonight.
So this is kind of be strange, kind of. Do you want a second meeting? I just want to make sure the public has every opportunity to put forth questions.
I would prefer this be the county meeting, and then we are able to start moving towards our public campaign meetings and taking these town halls to the neighborhoods and to the communities.
So we have to tell you it's okay to put it on the ballot before you can proceed
Before
with
we
that.
start moving towards trying to win our public voter approval, yes, sir.
Okay.
The sooner the better.
Yes, sir.
I would agree with Chief Beers. I've already been doing HOA meetings, in my fire district. I think I've done 6 so far. Sorry, I was saying.
So
Got up here.
we're on record, so.
Yes, sir. So I've already done 6 HOA meetings in my fire district, down on the backside of the lake. And every one of them, they all ask the same question. Is it gonna raise our taxes? Absolutely it is. And how is it gonna make what we're getting now better? And I go into detail with them on that, and they're all 100% on board by the time I walk out of the room. And I'm using the exact same data that everybody's been given here tonight. And usually when I leave, there's not hardly any questions, and people are like, well, this sums it up.
All right, good.
The one thing I like about it going on the ballot, because you don't have 5 men sitting here when you're going to raising your tax. I think you should have just like a school voucher. I think every voter should have the right to say, yes, I want that, or no, I don't want that. Just like this ESD, I don't think it's right for 5 men to sit up here and say, yes, it's what the people need. No, it's not what the people need. And so that's not what this is tonight. And Chief Biggers did an excellent job of answering the questions and a very professional presentation. I don't know how anyone could argue with that, so.
Yes, sir.
But you throw that on 3 of us don't even live in the district.
Yeah. So,
Two do.
yeah, just
It
Commissioner Smith and I,
Yep.
it affects our precincts.
affects y'all, it doesn't affect us.
And there have been numerous questions that I've gotten about, well, can I go vote on it? And there's some people that live in Union Valley, some people that live in Kaufman County that want to give us that support, and unfortunately, no, I'm sorry, you can't. But outside of that, I mean, the sooner we can start pushing forward, that makes our lives a little bit easier.
Okay. Any more over here? I know Commissioner Smith's sitting on the go to ask a bunch of questions. It's the truth.
Well, I've got but the most important, I got the most important thing though. But can we still have the fish fries?
They'll no longer be fundraisers, they'll be community involvement events from then on, yeah.
Okay, all right, that takes care of my problem. Hey, I did have a couple, just trying to make sure, clarification purposes for anybody. So, on the gear, and so you made it very clear that because you're a volunteer fire department, there's certain standards that you don't have somebody checking you every month to see if you're making those, right? Correct.
So the state of Texas does not regulate volunteer fire departments. They, to be frankly honest with you, they blanket that as, oh, we're doing y'all a favor and the county government's a favor, so they don't have to fund all that. When really they're using it as a scapegoat because they don't want to invest more in that. They want to hold these paid departments to a standard, but ask volunteers to do the same job and with lesser and untested.
Because I know that stuff's not cheap, and so I was just kind of going down as you were talking through that, and so on day one of the ESD, does all of that have to be upgraded on day one?
No, sir. Everything gets phased in as budgetary. We start phasing that in. So the first annual budget, depending on what the tax collection is, that'll be a priority with starting with the life safety equipment, the PPE, the SCBAs, the EMS equipment, and bringing that up to par. And then moving towards capital expenditures such as trucks and things. And then the ESD working and they can fund and hire a grant writer to start moving towards larger grants to help subsidize and make that funding happen more quickly. ESD, as a combined entity, has more granting ability and stronger grant points than each individual entity does as itself.
Another item I had, and just as we've gone through this, working up to today, I missed this one along the way. So year 4 or 5 is the first time you're getting paid?
Yes, sir. That would be full paid professionals is what our goal is. Yes, sir. Because we have to, before we can pay a professional person to sit in that fire station, everything that person has to meet Texas Commission on Fire Protection standards. All the gear must be less than 10 years old. All the air packs must be within date, hydrostatic tested, and less than 15 years old. We must have a budget set forth for annual physicals. We must have a training budget put in place to meet the TCFP requirements. So you have to build to that before you can even hire a person. Because if you hire a person, put them in the station, the commission comes and inspects you, finds away all your money.
Can you start giving just stipends?
Yes, sir. We could start giving stipends, and that's what in the first year budget we've started the stipend period. That does not have to meet Texas Commission on Fire Protection because it's stipending volunteers for their time or calls, and what that's going to goal is to help with retention and keep the volunteer
All right.
base.
Well, that's what I was thinking. I was hoping you could.
Yes, sir. But the second we start paying hourly or salary, we have to meet Texas Commission on Fire Protection standards, which is very extensive.
So, you were talking about the examples of where things had gone wrong with ESDs at other locations. Curious about the interaction of the board. So there's a lot more accounting, accountability, and all those things that go with this. So is there a finance accountant that resides in the ESD? Does that reside tied to the board? How's the whole audit and
So the
data submittal?
ESD can hire a CPA to help manage, or a treasurer on that board, but they must hire an independent auditor every year to do an independent audit of its finances, required by law by deadline. So they have to abide by an independent audit, and they have to pay for that independent audit.
So Gary's, expand on that a minute. So the board could, I guess, could choose to hire like a secretary or
Yes, sir.
some kind of administrator
Yeah, that
to
means-
take care of the day-to-day operations in coordination with the different volunteer fire departments and their contracts.
Yes,
And
sir.
could pay for that.
Yes, sir.
Those could be paid salaries.
Yeah, administrative costs, such as paying somebody to manage the money.
Right.
But every year, that person isn't the one that has to do the audit. They have to have
That'd be
outside.
a more efficient way for it to operate.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Correct.
Kind of a loaded question. One thing that I think is a plus out of this is certainly with the cities, you have agreements that are performance standards, right? So measurements to be held accountable to. If you don't make those measurements, what happens?
Well, that would be between whatever agreement that is met between that board and that city. I can't speak for how that agreement would be written, but it can result in the ESD having to fund that city, or that city having an option to petition themselves out of the ESD and bring themselves back to their individual standards. That would all be written between those entities and their legal teams about what standards need to be met. There's a wide variety of those throughout the states that are examples. They range from a lot of financial restitution to a lot of different things.
I'm gonna shut up.
Well, my wife had one question. Did you have, was that prepared by AI? Your presentation? She thinks everything's AI now.
No, well,
so-
my presentation I prepared, I did run my presentation after I worked on it for several weeks. I did run it through AI to make sure I wasn't lying to anybody.
Well, you did a great job.
I thought of it a bunch of different ways because I didn't want to deliver anything that was not factual or sourced, so I wanted to make sure that I was doing so. But I had a lot of help. I have friends that are ESD fire chiefs, ESD board members that gave us a lot of insight and some examples to work from.
Well, you did a great job.
Thank you, sir.
I can't control you up here, but I can at home.
Thank you,
Maybe.
Judge Stovall. Cindy Stovall. I did ask that question because I was very impressed with the presentation, with the thoroughness and the accuracy. And I have recently used AI myself to give a presentation that was very important to me. And so when I saw your presentation, I couldn't help but admire.
It's a great fact-checking tool to make sure
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, sir. I'll see you at home.
Okay.
Hey, Chief, I do have one question.
We had
What,
one speaker too, Judge.
What happens to your current equipment that you have now?
That stays in the name of the fire departments. That everything that's currently owned, stations owned, fire equipment owned, all stays with the names of those fire departments. Now, say that it's aged out. Everything that's in the name of the fire departments, if ESD does not come in and seize anything. Everything the ESD purchased with taxpayer dollars is then answerable to the ESD, and the ESD has to be in the ESD's name and basically allow that fire department to use, and that's for taxpayer protection. But everything that's currently owned by the fire department stay inside their name, and they
So-
just send a budget in for operating.
Like you said a while ago, a lot of the stuff is wore out or aged or something like that, but is there a possibility if there are some useful tools or equipment that you could pass down to other volunteer fire
Oh,
departments?
there's no
in the
doubt.
county?
I would highly encourage that, especially as these fire departments grow. I would hope that the CSD would be a partner to where, as it retires things, if we have other ESDs that are lesser funded, that it gives to them, or it allows those stuff to be reconstituted throughout the county instead of just sold. But yeah, it has full power of government to donate and everything else, the same as everybody else. Yes, sir.
If there's no need for it and they have to sell it, where does that money go? Does it stay with
That
the
would be
volunteer?
between the department and the ESD. The department can agree with the ESD, hey, we're going to sell it, and you supply us to this new engine, and we give you the sell money from this one to help offset the cost. Or the ESD could say, y'all keep that money and y'all use it for your own capital expenditure expenses, like, hey, we want to host a banquet for our firefighters, or we want to buy new chairs in the living room or something
Sure,
like that.
okay.
Will y'all change your name from South Hunt County to ESD2, or how are you gonna do that?
Every entity keeps its
It
own
keeps the
name,
same.
keeps its own identity. It
So
would
it's
just
just
be
governed under
serving,
the
yeah, it would
ESD.
just be governed by ESD too.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Now, there's not anything saying these fire departments can't all get together
Yeah.
and say, you know what? We just want to give it all over to the ESD. There's ESDs that's happened to, where the fire departments have been like, it's just easier for us to let y'all have it and you all run it, and they've signed everything over to ESDs. We've seen that happen. And then there's fire departments that have failed to live up to ESD standards and contracts, and ESDs have had to go battle in court over that, but in turn because of equipment they provided them and things. But the law has protected where those ESD items and stuff are protected, ESD backfilled, and because the standard minimums have to be met.
So is there two sets of books then, one for the volunteer and one for the
There still will be a
ESDs?
501c3. The Volunteer Fire Department will still have to keep its books and meet the standards of every 501c, periodic reports, 1090 or taxable documents always upgraded. Yeah, there's going to have to be two separate books, because even the ESD receives a budget from the Volunteer Fire Department, and then that has to be, every dollar that ESD gives the Volunteer Fire Department has to be accounted for by the Volunteer Fire Department and turned over, but the Volunteer Fire Department still has to keep its own books and receive its own tax and everything else. So it'll basically have to file its own taxes and also report every dollar to the ESD.
But they don't cross anywhere. The board doesn't touch the volunteer piece of the books, the nonprofit piece.
They give the money based on budget. That's it. And then if the volunteer fire department fails to meet compliance, they can pull that funding.
They'll just have a contractual obligation put to
Yes,
the
sir.
ESD.
Similar to what y'all have now, but probably quite a bit, not probably, very much a lot stricter, because the ESD has to account for every single dollar. By state law, y'all have the ability to kind of not have to do, the ESD doesn't have that option. They have to make their every dollar transparent. The volunteer fire departments have to show that to the ESD and for independent audit, because that independent audit will also include every ESD dollar put through that volunteer station. That volunteer station will have to account for every single ESD dollar in that independent audit.
All right, I think this gentleman had questions or comment to come up to the mic, please, sir. State your name and address.
This is a wealth of knowledge right here.
Commissioners, I appreciate the opportunity to stand before you. My name is Doug Kendrick. I live in Hunt County, basically outside of this district here. But tonight, what I wanted to tell y'all, I've been retired only 4 years. But one of the things in the fire service that y'all are touching on a little bit, it's financial, but it's also the gear. A lot of these departments need new gear because still today, there's firemen that have cancer. There's men and women that have cancer due to the fire service. And it's due because of what the gear and how their gear is taken care of. And it needs to be upgraded, washed, cleaned. But these departments that I've seen in the volunteer side and some paid departments, it's the gear. And we've been talked to very hard. And there's firemen that have retired and now they have cancer. They've had cancer while they're on duty. But it is very important for these fire departments, in talking in this case, to be able to fund, to be able to get the gear for the men and women that do serve. And we've always said, fire doesn't know whether you're volunteer or paid, and neither does cancer. So we hope that success can come for the guys in there. God bless you.
Thanks, sir. Any other comments?
Just a couple of questions for Daniel.
Well, right before we do that,
Okay.
anybody else got any comments out here? Okay.
So, Daniel, when you started the evening off, we talked about the requirements of the ESD, and you talked about there's a lot of information in the presentation that would complete the package that you had given us beforehand. So I'm curious, from a compliance perspective, you've been kind of tied to this throughout the entire process. Have we satisfied all the requirements that the state requires and the process requires?
For the most part, there's a few, and I can go over those specifically as we go through this, that are not. I mean, the big glaring issue that would need to be checked carefully is how many of the people on this list, the 183 or so, that we confirmed live in the original proposed district, 181. If more than 81 of those people live in Hawk Cove or the ETJ of Hawk Cove, then that would be a big problem.
Could we pass it and contingent upon them having the 100 votes or the 100 signatures?
No.
Okay.
Because the way that this is set up, if you look at the agenda, number 2, 3, and 4 all kind of work together and they build on one another. And that shaky part is in the first one, the findings on the petition. The other two are easy as long as the findings are done. And the findings are the biggest set of these. And if you look through there, there's a lot of different spaces that need to be filled in. Some of those are really easy to do, like the request date, because the same request date can be filled in for all 5 of the entities, right? And I can get the ordinance and resolution numbers that are spaces in there and the dates that those were approved tonight. It would be easy to do that contingent on those being filled in.
So what I'm hearing you say is, or my question, I guess, what you're saying, we can move to have another hearing on this at next Tuesday at our regular Commissioners Court, where all these issues will be resolved, and we could then take action on the 3 items that we take action on Tuesday?
Definitely. If there was a 7-day period in between now and the meeting next Tuesday, it would be very easy, especially with the way that we set up this list, because we put the CAD ID numbers next to each of these voters where they own the property and live. Most of those are going to be very clear that they're not in that area, but the ones that are closed are going to have to be checked one at a time. And that's going to probably take a couple of days just to go through that list. The chances of there being 81 of the 180 or 82 of the 181 that signed
Slim to
this
none.
is astronomically small. But you can't really do it contingent, because what we're talking about here is it's a binary legal choice. It either counts or it doesn't count. It also creates some other legal issues if you do it that way. If you want to, and the rest of these are relatively easy to fill in, they're just information that I don't currently have, but after talking with Chief Diggers, I think he can help fill in some of the rest of these. The only things that are, I think, difficult choices, if you grab that document that's it was the top one of the 3 in your packet originally, but it's the one that at the top says order making findings on petition, and turn to the next to the last page. That's where the real rubber hits the road, because there's section 5.01 through 5.06, really 5.05. That's the municipality by municipality findings, where you have to go through and determine whether or not it's still feasible to move forward with this if one or more of those votes to not be in it. Based on the count at the after the election happens. I have the numbers.
Daniel,
I think
I want to
are,
make sure I understood what you just said.
Yeah.
So we have an election, the ESD is funded, and then 8 months later, West Waukene says, hey, some things have changed, we need out. And then, and you're saying, can it still stand after that? Is that what you just said? Okay.
Close to that. This all has to be done front-loaded up front. So if everybody, if all 3 of these pass, we got all these blanks filled in and the election happened, but the people in West Waukene voted against it, everybody else voted for it, my understanding is that it wouldn't include that area.
So even though they're in the meets and bounds of the whole thing,
That's my understanding.
so majority doesn't rule within the meets and
No,
bounds?
not altogether. If this, I mean, a lot of places where the ESDs are put in are all rural. There's no incorporated cities with ETJs surrounding them. And in some areas, cities don't control their ETJs, so that creates another wrinkle. But if those cities vote against it, that's my understanding is how they would be treated, as they wouldn't be in after the vote.
Yeah, there's the citizens within the city vote is counted separate.
Just so people online.
Yeah, that's correct. The citizens, each city, the citizens still get to decide individually if that city wants to be a part of it. Their vote counts, and they can vote themselves out, yes, overall. And that's where
So even
our
though it
public
gets to the
education is going to be
ballot,
key.
Yeah, so even though it gets on the ballot.
Yes,
and-
sir.
And it wins,
Mhm.
locally, if a majority was opposed, they self-delete.
Yes, just in the
They
cities. in the
can, or they
municipalities.
automatically?
They automatic. If so, let's take the city of Quinlan, for example. If the the vote overall passes, but the citizens of the city of Quinlan voted no, then the city of Quinlan's not included. Yes, sir. But the OESD still moves forward. It just is without the city of Quinlan.
Okay, learn something.
It's very complicated.
Yeah.
But it's complicated, but it also gives the voters more rights and accountability to their overall saying. So it gives them a heavier say in things.
Yeah, so they don't feel like they're
Exactly.
held onerous to the larger population area.
Right. And that's where public education and the work we want to do is most vital, going to these cities and making sure people understand.
So I'm understanding we can't do anything tonight then.
Well, we can. It's just going to take some time. We're going to have to go through this line by line and fill it in.
So if we do it next Tuesday, is that 7 days, that's 7 calendar days, or is that 7 days, not counting weekends?
I mean, that's 7 calendar days.
It is 7.
I mean, it wouldn't take me more than probably 2 to 3 hours to fill in all those items.
So we can count
and-
today if we're announcing it tonight to the public. Is that correct?
Yes, if you want to, and there's a couple of things that you can do here. You don't have to continue the hearing if you don't want to. The hearing could close and then you could just vote on these 3 at that meeting next Tuesday. Or if you wanted to provide additional time for the public to come and talk or to ask other questions, then you could vote tonight to continue the hearing to the specific date, time, and location.
So if
which
we
would
don't
be
continue it, though, we can't post it tomorrow to get it on the agenda for Tuesday, can we?
Well, we can put all these other 3 on the agenda for sure. I mean, the agenda doesn't have to go out till midnight tomorrow.
Right.
But just before.
That's all, I'm just trying to make sure these new rules we got, I'm trying to make sure we're not stepping
Yes.
over the line anywhere.
No, under the new rules, there has to be 3 solid business days between the date of posting and the date of the meeting, which expands it basically 2 days from the old rules. But you can't, the only way to put that hearing on there for next time is for it to be a continuation of what's going on right now, because that hearing requires a 21-day
But we
publication.
don't, yeah, but we already had that.
Yeah.
So if we just do 2, 3, and 4 on our regular agenda next Tuesday, then we're good.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Everybody got that?
And people would still have the opportunity to comment on it in the public comment
Sure.
section. I mean, it wouldn't really make a difference to the public's ability to comment on it.
But-
It just makes a difference to Chief Vigor's ability to come up and talk. But as the person that's leading the meeting, you could provide that time anyway.
Because we've already had our public hearing, so now it's just us voting on what we're gonna accept it or not.
Once you close the public hearing, that's correct.
But we've already closed it, or what, I'm gonna close it tonight.
Sure. Yes, you can do that, or if the board wants to, you can vote to continue it to next Tuesday. Either way.
And there's no scenario where we can vote tonight just to be done.
Not really.
No.
Well, there is a scenario. It's just it would put the county on shaky legal ground because we're not 100% sure about at least one of these issues.
So I don't want to put the project at risk.
So what do y'all think? Do we,
Let's say go ahead and, because if we put it on Tuesday, people's gonna be able to show up and talk in public comment if they
But we-
want to.
Close the public hearing, put the 3 on for Tuesday.
And once we've gone through those 3, we can then vote.
everybody all right with that?
Whatever.
That's all right. You can.
That way we don't take a chance of missing the deadlines and
Yep.
messing it up or whatever.
Yeah, and the deadline is, I mean, we still have 30-something days till the deadline, almost 40 days. It's August 17th, but
Yeah, but they're
there's no
wanting to get
point.
to work, so
Yeah,
we're
definitely.
trying to help them too, so.
Yeah, and if you vote to move those 3 to next week, I'll get with Chief Vigors and fill out the rest of these and make sure everybody's in agreement on exactly what they say.
All right, so we're closing the public hearing tonight, number 1. And so now we're gonna adjourn and then take care of everything next Tuesday.
And add 3 items, or 1 item that has 3 topics to the agenda for next Tuesday.
Yeah, but we don't have to vote on that or anything. It'll
No.
just happen.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Yeah, I'll
So
get
we
with, Jessica
we
and put
close
those
the
on.
public hearing and then we just adjourn tonight and then we finish it up next Tuesday.
Yeah, and then we can put these once I get these set up, or do you have time to talk tomorrow? Okay. Once I get these other parts filled out and updated, I'll send that to the court by Thursday morning. And then we can, that'll give us a few more days to go through this list and take out anybody that's in that ETJ area around Hot Cove.
Okay. All right. So at this time, I'm going to close the public hearing. And we can adjourn, correct? We got anything else?
That's correct. I don't think there's anything else. There's no
Commissioners, y'all got anything else you want to talk about related to this? Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
Got a motion second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. We're adjourned at 8:20. Thank y'all for coming.